Hello, everyone. I'm checking in. It is truly a momentous Monday moment for me. We had the day off today, and for that, I am truly grateful. So, I'm checking in. A couple things on my mind to chat about, but I think I got one main topic to nail down. But I'm so thankful that TikTok only allows you 10 minutes because you kind of got to fit it in unless you're going to do a series in that. We not on that right now. But happy Monday. Pray everyone is well. I'm popping in. I just dropped by to get myself a good old, it used to be called a green tea frap, but matcha is all the wave now, which that's all green tea is. But so I hadn't gotten this in probably years. And I wasn't even sure if I ordered the right thing because I said cream frap matcha. But I was like, wait, this used to be called the green tea cream frap. Anyway, many moons ago on a birthday, my good sis Shyla um, told me to order this because you get a free drink on your birthday, and so she told me to order this because I really wasn't a patron of this particular restaurant like that at the time, and I really didn't. I didn't know what to order. Wasn't a coffee drinker. Well, I had just started drinking coffee in grad school, but I didn't really know much about coffee, especially specialty drinks. So anyway, long story short, turns out when I tasted it, it is exactly what I used to order. It's just called a matcha cream frap instead of a green tea cream frap. Why? Because matcha is from green tea leaves. At any rate, I finally got out of the house. I was in all day. I detangled my hair, and y'all know what hairstyle was I wearing before this? Say it with me, a puff. And a puff is always, especially if it's worn several days, and I want to say I've been wearing a puff for about 2 weeks. And if it's not stretched, once I start wearing a puff, it's a wrap. I'm gonna have to wash my hair. It's a wrap. And so that was a detangling job. And the first side, it wasn't that hard to do, but I was tired by the time I got to the second side. And so I took a break, which turned into a couple of hours of doing other things since I was home. So I finally finished. And my plan is to wash it when I get home, but it might be tomorrow, and I might wear a head wrap tomorrow. Anyway, at 3 minutes in, I want to talk about how one of the things that I have been learning bit by bit over the past 5 to 10 years or so, I'll say 5 to 7 years or so, is that something that I have dealt with, and from talking to so many other Christians from my era, people who grew up in a similar fashion, people who became devoutly Christian at a young age, and came up, over the past 15, 20, 25 years or so as adults. Um, it was interesting because one of the things I shared with my friend Shyla, and I honestly didn't even think about that when I was ordering the drink, but one of the things I shared with her is how I was feeling like I spent a good bit of my 20s and 30s being super committed to a church, and how I scheduled my life for many years around the service, going to church services, being a part of a church. So that meant, I wasn't going to commit to things that I had to do on a Wednesday night. In many For many years, I wasn't going to commit to things that I had to do consistently on a Sunday for many years. And because in most cases I was on a worship team of some sort, it would be pretty much all day because I would sing for two services when I was at one church, and then other churches, were churches that had longer services. So anyway, all of that to say, um, I got to a point like late 30s, super late 30s, going into that next decade, that I started to feel like, man, did I waste time when I could have been working? Because I started to think about how instead of getting a second job, because I didn't want to work all weekend long after working a full time job as a teacher, I didn't want to work all weekend long because I just felt like I would just be completely obliterated. But the times where I could have worked, like Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, you know, all day Sunday, were committed to church. And so, I got to a place where I was trying to figure out, like, how did I get to where I was, dealing with disappointment, um, the disillusionment of, like, oh, this didn't quite go how I planned or how I even tried to make it go. And I got to a point where I was feeling like, man, I should have been working. All that time I was worried about church and church stuff, I should have been worried about making money. That's how I was feeling. And I happened to mention it to my friend Shyla, and she was saying how she and her husband had had a similar conversation. And me and her husband are actually just closer in age than she and I are. And I'm not sure where he is with this, and I'm not even sharing what his sentiment was, but we had been having a similar conversation just in reflection on like how we had spent our 20s and 30s. And years later, now, something that I'm learning is that a lot of times when if you become devoutly Christian at a young age and you believe in God and you are like super help me super rule follower you come to a place where you realize that a lot of the things that you did or did not do didn't get you to where you thought you should be. And so you start wondering, did you waste time? But then as you mature and you start to get more clarity in your walk with God through hardship and despite of hardship, you start seeing that, okay, you were doing the right things and maybe you were well intentioned, but to a degree you were doing the right things, maybe not totally for the right reason. And then as you grow closer to the Lord and you're able to reflect honestly, and as the Spirit of God gives you clarity on things, perspective on things, you go through times of repentance, you go through times of forgiveness, you go through times of giving things to God and opening your heart to hear what He would have to say and to honor His perspective on things and embracing the truth of who God is and what He has done, who He is, what He's doing in your life. You start to see that, like, in a lot of ways, even though you were doing the wrong thing, even though you were doing the right thing, maybe not 100% for the right reason, that God still kept you and favored you through you doing the right thing. And then you get to a place where you're still, if you're still doing the right thing, or you're getting back on track doing the right thing, however that falls for you, you start to do the right things for the right reason. And then you don't look back on times where you did the right thing and it didn't get you the result that you wanted. You don't look back on it as wasted time. You look back on it as grace. You look back on it as mercy. You look back on it as the providence of God, a loving God who knows your beginning from your end and who has always had your best in mind, your good and His glory in mind. And so I just thought about that today. A few years back, 5, 6 years ago, having that reflective moment of feeling like, man, I spent a lot of time hoping for rainbows and butterflies and thinking that seeds that I was sowing of doing the right thing when I really could have been doing the wrong thing quite easily. Feeling like, man, that it didn't pay off. But of course, that's through the lens of disappointment. But after processing those things and growing in my walk with the Lord, seeing that not only did they pay off in a lot of ways that I can see, I was protected in a lot of ways that I may not even know about. And now, sowing those seeds, those good seeds still, but for the right reason, and how that commitment to prioritizing God and the things of God and the people of God, it will always be worth it.